What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, back in Standard here with a Gruul Landfall list. So this one we're kind of more on the top end here. We have Phylath, Ancient Greenwarden, and Ashaya, Soul of the Wild here as kind of our featured cards. Ashaya is super powerful, and of course we're running the Scute Swarm here as well, 4 copies. It's 3 mana 1/1, of course, does all the things. It just gets out of control really fast. And of course with Ashaya works extremely well because all of the creatures we play after that contribute towards Landfall, which makes the Scute Swarm even more broken. It is legendary, so we're running 3 copies. But yeah, super strong card what we're trying to do, and it gets super big. We also have 2 Ancient Greenwarden, 6 mana 5/7 reach, so pretty decent stats. And we can play lands from our graveyard, and if lands entering the battlefield causes abilities to trigger, they trigger an additional time. So our Scute Swarm makes even more tokens. Phylath makes even more counters on the plant tokens, things like that. So yeah, it gets pretty insane. Phylath, of course, 6 mana 5/5. It makes a 0/1 plant creature token for each basic land you control. And since we're in 2 colors, we should have a fair number of basics, 3 or 4 at a minimum in most situations. And then every time a land enters, you get to put 4 +1/+1 counters on target plant you control. So depending on what your opponent is up to, you can generally want to try to spread those counters out among your plant tokens. But if your opponent has some big creatures of their own, you might need to kind of stack them. Just kind of depends on what you're facing. Alright, so we also have a Spikefield Hazard as a way to deal with our opposing Lotus Cobras and things like that. Or we just play it as a land, of course. We're playing the Lotus Cobra ourselves, of course, helping ramp into our 5 and 6 mana creatures a little bit earlier. And just 2 on body is pretty fine in its own. Kazuul's Fury can be a land, or you can basically play it as a 3 mana fling. So it's a little bit expensive, but obviously we're just trying to top deck this on the spell side. And then we can make our Ashaya, which is probably going to be pretty big, 10, 12 maybe, maybe more. And we can make this really big, or maybe in a Phylath plant token that has a bunch of counters on it. If that's really big, we can just fling that at our opponent and kill them that way. We're also running Broken Wings. We don't have too many ways to deal with flyers or removal, and of course hitting artifacts and enchantments is pretty sweet. So 2 copies here in the main. Roiling Regrowth, just 2 copies to sack a land, search for 2 basic lands into the battlefield tapped, so it's 2 landfall triggers. Obviously we need to have our Scute Swarms and Phylath and things like that already on the battlefield to actually get value off of this, so that's why I just need 2 copies, because doing this on turn 3 is it's pretty medium. I also have 2 copies here of Klothys, a little bit more ramp, and it's also incremental damage for a lot of situations. The life gain can help us out, obviously, against creature matchups. Even against control matchups can be pretty sweet. If they don't have a exile removal or something to deal with Klothys, and we just ping away at their life total. Even if they have removal for our Scute Swarms and whatnot, we can still just kind of chip in with incremental damage and finish them off that way. Vastwood Surge, of course, lets us tutor up 2 basic lands onto the battlefield tapped for 4 mana sorcery speed. But then we can also pay kicker 4, which if you top deck this in the very late game, then obviously that's not really a big deal. And you can put a bunch of counters on all of your Scute Swarm tokens and plant tokens and whatnot, and just swing out for a super lethal attack. We also have 2 copies here of Return of the Wildspeaker. I think we finally found a home for this card. I know people have tried to find ways to kind of build around it or play with it, but just never quite felt right, really. But in this list, obviously, we're running lots of elementals and non-humans and things like that. So this can be pretty good either way, because we have the Scute Swarms and the Phylath to help to kind of go wide. We also have big creatures like Ashaya and even Phylath itself, or the plant tokens. If they have a bunch of tokens on counters on the tokens, we can have really big creatures. So we can either choose to draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. It can easily be 5 or 6, or if not more. Or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. So all the stupid little 1/1 Scute Swarm tokens, so you have 20, 30 out, whatever. Well, you just swing all out, give them all +3/+3 until end of turn, and that's going to close out the game pretty quickly. All right, Ancient Greenwarden, Phylath, and finally we have 3 of Purphoros' Intervention. It's a pretty sweet removal spell, in my opinion. Obviously not the best, but in Gruul colors, your options are a little bit limited, and since we're making lots of mana, the scales extremely well. Obviously we have a hard time dealing with bigger creatures on our opponent's side. But Intervention kind of answers that for us. We can kill opposing Elder Gargaroths and things like that pretty easily. Or we can just sink a bunch of mana into this and make a big, huge elemental with Trample and Haste to potentially kill our opponent. Mana base here, we do need to run plenty of basics. So we have 8 mountains, 9 forests, 4 of the Cragcrown Pathways for that fixing, and then the Fabled Passage for the Landfall triggers. And of course, Fabled Passage with Ancient Greenwarden is just kind of out of control. Sideboard here, we have 1 copy of Soul Guide Lantern for any graveyard shenanigans like cycling and whatnot. 4 copies of Scorching Dragonfire for aggro matchups, especially things like rogues. 2 of Heroic Intervention to protect all of our creatures, tokens, and whatnot from board wipes. A couple copies here of Return Nature, some additional hate on artifacts and enchantments. Actually, since we have the Broken Wings, we'll just do 1 and add 1 more Soul Guide Lantern. Let's do it that way. Phoenix of Ash obviously works extremely well with the escape mechanic. The opponents wanting lots of removal of their own, and with the activated ability here for 3 mana, giving it +2/+0 until end of turn. Since obviously our deck can generate lots of mana and get lots of mana on board, it's going to be a fantastic sync and just deal tons of damage very, very quickly. 2 copies here of Soul Sear gives instant speed removal on creatures and planeswalkers. Obviously, Omnath is pretty good target for this. Cragplate Baloth gives us hexproof haste and can't be countered. Obviously, 7 mana is pretty steep, but it is a 6/6 creature with all these abilities, and we can even kick it for an additional 3 mana to have it come down as a 10/10. And since we're generating tons of mana, that's not actually too big of a deal for us in this particular list. All right, so that's the deck. We'll jump into some matches. All right, against Fleshy Chimp. Gotta go first. It's a little slow, but we'll take it. Obviously, Cobra is pretty good. To have some removal if your opponent is, depending on what your opponent is up to. Obviously, go ahead and get this down. No reason to hang on to it as a 3 mana spell. Opponent is also red mana open, so we'll drop our Cobra, see if they have removal for it. Okay, not yet. Showing mono red so far. I'm not sure what to make of that. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're still off from the Greenwarden, so we'll go ahead and just attack in for 2 here. Our opponent's stuck on 2 mountains. I'm discarding. Okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, are we quite there? Obviously, math isn't my strong suit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think we're still one short. So we'll just go ahead and actually no, because Fabled. Well, we would have had it. Oh well. Yeah, it's fine. Ancient Greenwarden. Let's grab a forest. Alright, Greenwarden, come on down. Cobra's basically done its job, so we'll swing if they want to block. There you go. Alright, turn to the Wildspeaker. We'll just draw 5 maybe. Unless they have some way to deal with this. They appear to be Gruul, but they're missing lands. Although this is either or, so it could just be mono red. It is a Gruul. They just kept a sketchy hand, it seems like. Save this Fabled Passage to actually get some value with some Landfall. Alright, go ahead and fire this off. That way they don't get counters on anything or draw cards. Man. We'll swing 5. Play out the basic pass. Probably just need to draw with Wildspeaker here. So the other nice thing about the Greenwarden is we still have the Spikefield open to us. Even though we cast the spell side, we still have the ability to play as a land as well. So we'll go ahead and draw. A lot of lands. I mean, Scute Swarm is a thing. Swing 5 here, pass turn. We have the Broken Wings to deal with this Iron games, but that's not really doing anything since we already killed the token immediately. We'll just go super wide here. And that should be good enough to kill our opponent. Two more basics, doesn't matter. Got a million more triggers. 36. And I'm so glad I don't have to do this on paper. I would be so lost. Yeah, we'll just attack. It's more than lethal. Reason to screw around here, making our opponents sit through more triggers. Game gets pretty laggy once you get to too many. That's no fun for either player. Like, if you're gonna play Scute Swarm, just do it responsibly, you know. You don't need to make all the triggers and just slow down both players' computers and play experiences. Okay, some kind of a Gruul jank. Do we need to do anything here? No, they're running Iroan games, but don't seem to be too big of a deal. Maybe Soul Sear, just more ways to deal with their bigger creatures. Broken Wings, probably not super relevant. Just bringing the Soul Sear, probably better. See if we can get the Return of the Wildspeaker with the Scute Swarm tokens, maybe. That'd be pretty sweet. Three lands is okay. Obviously, Kazuul's Fury with the Ashaya is pretty good, but open hand doesn't really do a whole lot of good, so we'll just play this out as a land. We'd have removal with intervention here on 2, or just Klothys on 3. See what our opponent does. Almighty Brushwag. So that's a reasonable target for the intervention. We could save it for turn 4, as we currently don't have any other follow-up for the Klothys. Yeah, we'll just pass, we'll save it. Save our Fabled Passage as well, try to get some landfall triggers if we can. So we've got Mountain and the Klothys next turn, and then Intervention potentially on turn 4 if they have something a little scary. Both graveyards are empty, which is unfortunate. Could have been a reason to play the Intervention earlier. But I think I'd rather just use it to kill something here. Like a 5/5 is a pretty good target. 3. We have to kill that. Now we got a couple things in the yard for a Klothys. And we got Ashaya into Phylath. And we can follow it up with the Vastwood Surge to get some landfall triggers. So we're in a decent spot, as long as they don't do anything too crazy here. Obviously pretty slow start, but our opponent's kind of a little bit slow as well. Rimrock, nice. They're starting to apply some pressure. Obviously want to target their graveyard first. Oh, we're missing green. Alright, Lotus Cobra. Let's do a chump block duty here. Probably should have played that passage earlier, just get the Ashaya down. Another 4/4. So now they can start attacking with their Warden. And they can put Trample on the Rimrock Knight. Yep. So they have, what, 7, 8? They hold the Brushwag back. Well, we'll kill the Knight here. We're going to take some trample damage. We do get some life back thanks to Klothys. Alright, play you as a green source. And tap out for Phylath. Let's get a bunch of tokens here. So hopefully that'll keep him at bay. Now we have 5/5, but we'll see. I just go for Ashaya and Fabled Passage. We could Vastwood Surge just to grow these tokens. They're kind of going wide here, so we might need to do that. We'll get some triggers from this Fabled Passage at least, so that's not really. So we probably don't need to get the Vastwood Surge in just yet. Well, 4 mana open. So this gets +4. Well, if they activate that, then they probably can't do anything else. Well, they have the Caryatid, so they could have another 1 mana play. So I'll take that. Okay. Hornbash or Mentor. Growing these Warden of the Chains. And Ram Through. Okay. You got me. We're down to 3. Go back to 5. Losing Phylath was pretty brutal there. Not sure we can survive this. They just swing out here, and I think we're dead because of trample. Phylath was pretty brutal. All right, you got it. All right. Cobra's okay. But maybe need some more removal for some of their. They do have some enough cheap creatures that maybe the Scorching Dragonfire. Just bringing 2 copies. I'll try it like that. I mean, that's a lot of removal. Not really much juice. We'll keep this. And we'll put a Vastwood Surge away, I guess. The land, so we'll go and play this. We'll get the Fabled Passage down, so we have 3 mana open for us next turn to Scute Swarm. Pretty awkward having to play the Spikefield as a land and not be able to kill this this Caryatid, but it is what it is. Probably getting our Scute Swarm down is going to be pretty important. We can kind of go off a little bit with the Fabled Passage and Vastwood Surge. Next turn. Klothys is pretty good too. Not really much in their graveyards at this point, though. So I think we just Vastwood Surge here. We're Grab one of each. Keep it nice and even. So no reason to attack. We do have Phylath next turn. Also maybe Klothys plus Intervention. We'll see what our opponent's up to. Rugged Highlands, gotta love that. If they attack with the Manticore, we have pretty easy blocks with the 2 tokens here. Well, they do not. Alright, Phylath, come on down. Hopefully we can survive another turn or two here and start getting some pretty sweet landfall triggers. Right, so now we know they're running Ram through. Hornbash Mentor. Three mana open. Can we kill them next turn? I think we might be able to. Let's go for it. It is a land. Let's return to the Wildspeaker. Should be good enough. Alright, opponent, what do you got? I know you have a ramp through or something. You were thinking about it. Really? Got a response? That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. Minus 26. So even though 0-1s, they still get a proc off that. Return the Alright, against Mini Ninja 32. Gotta go first. We have some removal and a Scute Swarm, so I'm not going to say no to that. Even Fabled Passage as well. Maybe get some sweet, sweet landfall triggers if our opponent lets us. Cobra, that's pretty cool. Turntimber Symbiosis. Okay, looks like they're also on Gruul. Kill my Cobra. You got it. You got another one? Let's see, do you have another one? Now you gotta deal with a Scute Swarm, a Zusa. Looks like they're trying to do some landfall shenanigans of their own. Okay, there's another land. They're ramping over there. But not doing much else. I'll play you as a red source. I guess we'll kill the Azusa. Swing for one. Alright, so next turn we got some probably just play the Forest and Ashaya, and then we can Fabled Passage the following turn and get some pretty crazy landfall triggers. Dryad, Azusa, and Brushfire Elemental, really? Ashaya then triggers Scute Swarm as well. Fabled Passage coming down next turn. Can you deal with Scute Swarm? Like Dryad and Azusa are just kind of do nothings if you're trying to play aggro. Oh, you're trying to be oh, you're trying to mutate. I see. That's so cute. That's so cute, opponent. Yeah, you got on there for 8. Good job. Well, Phylath is pretty good. Fabled Passage. Well, we can do some pretty nasty stuff ourselves. So. I'll say no attacks. We can afford to be a little bit patient. Okay. So they're trying to mutate and take advantage of landfall triggers. Let's see, what was this again? This was the elemental, that's right. So Scorching Dragonfire hits Azusa, Cobra, and the elemental, but doesn't hit Dryad. Soul Sear does hit a lot of their stuff. Don't think Broken Wings does anything, so I guess we'll maybe take those out for the Soul Sears. Not sure we need the Dragonfires. Obviously, Intervention is pretty good. Wildspeaker can help us break any stalemates. Oh, yeah, we'll just run it like that. Feel like we have the better landfall deck. Uh-oh. Opponent wants no part of it. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm going to wrap it up there. But yeah, this deck has been super sweet for me. Man, Arena's so slow. Yeah, just getting the landfall triggers. Obviously, everybody knows about Scute Swarm, but then when you combine it with Ashaya, Greenwarden, Phylath, things get pretty out of control. We're a super slow deck, so obviously it's definitely more on the janky side. I don't think this deck is really all that competitive. Obviously, you can play it on some of the lower ranks and do some pretty busted things. But yeah, Return of the Wildspeaker has definitely been pretty clutch for me. Either the card draw or the +3/+3, either side of this has been pretty awesome. So happy to finally find a place to actually put this card to good use. And Klothys as well has been pretty clutch. Give you some main deck kind of graveyard hate. Although obviously Uro has finally been banned, so we don't have to worry about that as much. But it does still represent ramp and some potential life gain against the more aggro matchups. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty busted things you can do with Scute Swarm, Ashaya, Greenwarden, and Phylath. Super fun. Sideboard. Yeah, I mean, Phoenix of Ash gives you a nice mana sink and it's great against the removal control heavy matchups because your opponent has to have like exile removal to deal with this, and there's only so much of that around. Obviously, we have main deck Broken Wings, kind of giving you some artifact and enchantment hate. So one more Return Nature has been pretty good. I still think you need some Graveyard hate for there's still some cycling decks. I know some other big content creators kind of doing some videos and kind of refocusing people's attention on the cycling deck. So definitely have to be aware of that, even though Graveyard isn't too much of a concern overall. We still need some ways to kind of deal with those decks. And obviously rogues are super prevalent in other kind of aggro lists, maybe it's like a Landfall aggro, things like that. So Scorching Dragonfire seems like it cleans up those decks. All those decks pretty nicely. Instant speed, 3 damage is kind of seems like it's the sweet spot. And yeah, Baloth has been pretty nice as well. Very fun card. We can obviously ramp into it. Soul Sear seems like it's pretty good removal in Gruul. And like I said, I do like the intervention. Didn't get to do the big X for anything. We can definitely see how if it gets to the late game, you can definitely do some pretty crazy stuff with all your mana sinking it to an intervention and things like that. Kazuul's Fury, pretty clutch with the fling effect, especially on like Ashaya, can be pretty dirty. Or just playing as a land and getting a bunch of landfall triggers. So yeah, lots of definitely fun lines of play and just some pretty crazy things you can do with it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with Purphoros.